Hello, everyone, and welcome to Slash Film Daily for September 7th, 2018. On today's episode, we're going to discuss the latest film and TV news, and in our feature presentation, we're going to play a clip from Ben Pearson's interview with Ray Park, a.k.a. Darth Maul. This is Slash Film Editor-in-Chief Peter Sciretta, and joining me on today's podcast is Slash Film Senior Writer Ben Pearson.
Hey, what's going on?
And writer Hoai-Tran Bui.
Hey, everyone.
Okay, guys, let's jump into the news. Let's start off with a bit of sad news. Yesterday, we found out that Burt Reynolds, an actor of television and film, has died at the age of 82. Ben, what do we know?
Yeah, unfortunately, Burt Reynolds died of, what's the official cause? The official cause, it's basically a heart attack, but it's called a cardiopulmonary arrest. And yeah, as you mentioned, he was 82 years old. Burt Reynolds, of course, known for movies like Deliverance and Boogie Nights and Smokey and the Bandit and Cannonball Run. I mean, he was around for a long time. He was a professional athlete before he became a movie star, and was really like sort of like the embodiment of a certain type of masculinity in the 70s and 80s. And he was sort of beloved by pretty much everybody across the board. So it's rare to find a movie star whose charisma and just verve, sort of resonated with so many people, across all sorts of genders and ages and demographics of all kinds. So, it's sad to see him go, but his work will obviously be remembered forever.
Yeah, and he's been in a ton of stuff. According to IMDb, he has 471 credits to his name, and that includes, television and film, and also video games, because he was in one of the Grand Theft Auto games and Saints Row the Third. I feel like, for a actor that has been so prolific, I feel like I have not seen, a tenth of the films that he has starred in. I feel like my favorite is Boogie Nights. I think that's probably a lot of people's favorite of his. I know when I was a kid, I grew up watching Cannonball Run, but I haven't seen that in, over a decade. I'm actually curious to actually revisit that. Ben, do you have any films or TV that you remember Burt by?
Yeah, my parents especially really, really liked Smokey and the Bandit. I think my mom, and she was a big fan of Burt Reynolds, and I think I grew up watching that movie here and there, so that one, sort of stands out to me. I still have yet to see Deliverance. I know that's a huge one, and then people have been citing that as like one of his best performances. I just, like you, Peter, I have a lot of blind spots when it comes to Reynolds' filmography, because he was around for so long and he was in so many things, and like a lot of the sort of Southern fried crime movies and stuff he was in. Like he was in films like Hooper and Gator, which I've been wanting to see for a long time, but just have not had a chance to get around to that yet. One thing I did want to mention was he was in this movie called Heat in 1986, not the Michael Mann film Heat, but this one was written by William Goldman, who's the guy who wrote like The Princess Bride and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. And it's this really like dirty, sweaty performance from Reynolds in the lead role. And I mean, the movie is not great, but I feel like he's pretty good in it. So if you're looking for something that's not one of his like classics, I guess that one would be a recommended option. So 1986 is Heat.
HT, how about you?
Yeah, I also have a big blind spot when it comes to Burt Reynolds as well. The only film I've seen him in is Boogie Nights, in which he's phenomenal. And he got an Oscar nomination for that film, even though he notoriously apparently hated playing that role and fired his agent after he was cast, after he performed in it, which I thought was hilarious because he's so good in it as well.
You haven't seen the 1993 film Cop and a Half?
You know what? I just missed that boat.
What about All Dogs Go to Heaven?
Oh, yeah. I forgot he was in that.
I actually have seen that. I forgot he was in that.
He sang
that was
songs
a beloved
and
one
stuff.
of mine. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. But Burt Reynolds, you will be missed. Let's move on to an interesting bit of a composer who is going to be directing directing a short film, and that is Michael Giacchino, who we know from all the Pixar movies, the J.J. Abrams films. We love his work. And he has directed a short film starring Patton Oswalt that's going to be playing a Fantastic Fest. HT, what do we know?
So Michael Giacchino will be making his directorial debut with a short film called Monster Challenge, which stars Patton Oswalt and Ben Schwartz, and it's making its world premiere at Fantastic Fest this month, at the end of the month, which runs from September 20th to 27th. It doesn't have an exact date yet, but it'll be sometime in that range. So this short film runs for 13 minutes, and its official summary goes... famed composer Michael Giacchino catapults a hapless Patton Oswalt as himself into an outrageous series of challenges in his infectiously silly tributes to the eccentricities of Japanese game shows. So we don't really know much about it. There's a poster that has a big sort of Godzilla-style claw print with Japanese kanji on the poster. So it seems really interesting and offbeat, and it's a long-awaited sort of directorial debut for Giacchino, who actually initially set out to be a filmmaker before he got into music composing and became one of the most renowned composers working today. He apparently majored in film production at the School of Visual Arts, but then after a stint at Juilliard, found a career in music scoring.
Actually, he fell into publicity. I think he was in publicity at Universal or something, and then that's how he got into composing for video games. Which, from what I remember, I could be wrong, but he did Medal of Honor or something like that, and Steven Spielberg caught the eye of Steven Spielberg and some people. I don't know.
Medal of Honor and Call of Duty.
Yeah, I am really excited to do this because I think Giacchino is just a very talented person, and if he can, if his storytelling skills are as good as his ability to manipulate my emotions, then I am down. Ben, what do you think?
Oh, yeah, I'm very excited about this. And Peter, I think you and I are both going to Giacchino's doing this Lost Live concert coming up in it might be next weekend, actually, in LA. I think both of us have seen that performance before, but it's basically it's him like conducting an orchestra of the score that he wrote for Lost, which is like some of my favorite movie or TV music of all time. So maybe somebody there will ask him some questions about this, and we might be able to, be there and relay some of that info if that happens.
For sure. HT, are you excited about the short film?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I also am a huge fan of the Lost score. I cried whenever I listened to the end. I'm a little bit emotional. I'm emotional sap when it comes to that movie, and I really love all of his scores for the Pixar films. And he's just a hardworking composer. I'm astonished how often he can just churn out scores for several films in 1 year, and if he can just like have a tenth of his talent that he has shown for composing with his film debut, I think it'll be a great start to a film career, hopefully, or filmmaking career.
I remember at the last Lost concert that I went to, Ben, I don't think you were at the same one as me, but he was talking about with Lost, they would often record the orchestra for that show days before the episode would go on the air. And I just can't imagine being able to work week to week on creating new scores for, these episodes. Like, I don't know, that guy's a machine.
Yeah, it was wild because like he was talking about how basically the way he would write the music for Lost was he would watch like the final cut or very, very close to the final cut of the episode and just sort of write to the emotions that he was seeing from the performers and the story and stuff, and like everything would just come to him afterwards. And a lot of times it's done the opposite way. It's like the music is done first, and then it's sort of dropped in to score particular moments. But he really like took his cues from the work that Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse did in sort of shaping the story of that TV show, and really just like the music. It's astonishing that he did it that way, and the music is that good.
Yeah, and it should be also mentioned that Michael Giacchino's brother, Anthony Giacchino, is an acclaimed documentary filmmaker. He did the documentary on the Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol Blu-ray, and also that Iron Giant documentary that came out, I think, a year or two ago, which are both worth watching. Some of the best filmmaking documentaries I've seen in recent years. But let's move on from movies to theme parks. And apparently there's a new rumor that a Zelda-themed land could be coming to Universal's Islands of Adventure. Ben, what do we know?
Yeah, so obviously Universal sort of changed the game by introducing the Wizarding World of Harry Potter into its parks, and with Disney's Star Wars Galaxy's Edge coming very soon, Universal is going to need something to lure people back over to their park, in the Orlando area, and that's where they have the Universal Studios Florida park. They have Universal's Islands of Adventure, which is sort of like a more roller coaster heavy superhero themed park. There's like a lot of disparate elements in that park, and there were some rumors that the Super Nintendo properties might be all put into one park in the United States, but it seems now that this new rumor from Theme Park University says that basically Universal is going to be diversifying its Nintendo intellectual property and spreading it across multiple parks. So the rumor right now is that a Zelda Land is going to be coming to Islands of Adventure and replacing the Lost Continent area of that park, and sort of encompassing the whole area from Seuss Landing to the Wizarding World, if anybody is familiar with the geography of that particular park. So it's still a rumor right now, but we're sort of talking about it in the Slack, and it makes a lot of sense because that's splitting things up across multiple parks is what Universal has done already with Harry Potter, and that worked out really well for them so far. So a similar move like this makes a lot of sense. Peter, I know you were saying that it makes sense also because the idea of introducing an entire Super Nintendo themed land might seem cool, but it at the same time would potentially alienate a lot of people who are not video game lovers, right?
Yeah, I do think, it was originally rumored for that third park that they're supposedly building or going to build or they're planning in the planning stage right now. And I feel like if that park was half Nintendo, as much as video games have permeated our culture and, there's so many people that play video games, I could definitely see people that don't play video games being like, do I need to go to a park that's half video games that I don't like? So I do think it makes more sense to have Super Mario Land over in this third park, having Zelda over in Islands of Adventure, and maybe, something over in Universal Studios proper. Ben, HT, have you guys ever been to Islands of Adventure?
I have, yeah. I actually was there before it opened. I went with a group, and I was like one of the first people to ever be in that park, and I rode all the rides before it opened to the public, and actually got stuck on a Dudley Do-Right Rips Off Falls ride, and then I was basically stuck on the ride for an hour and a half, as the music was just jangling around and driving me insane. But we got a cut to the front of the line pass because of it, and we ended up being able to ride the Hulk roller coaster that's over there. I have very fond memories of that park, and the Dueling Dragons ride, which has now been I guess converted into a Harry Potter roller coaster.
Yeah, they're converting it right now.
That one I was a big fan of riding that ride, and I definitely enjoyed Islands of Adventure because, like I said, it was more attraction heavy instead of atmosphere heavy. But HT, have you ever been?
I've only been to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, which I think is kind of part of Islands of Adventure, but I stuck essentially just to that area and left immediately after I finished. So I haven't been to any of the other parts of Universal Studios.
Spoken like a true Harry Potter fan.
I have to be loyal to my tattoo.
Wait, what is your tattoo?
Oh, I have a Deathly Hallows tattoo on my wrist of the symbol.
I do not know how I didn't know that. Well, the land that they're supposedly, the rumor is they're building the Zelda themed land on is this land called Lost Continent, which I think for most people's money has been the least favorite of the lands, but it has this great Poseidon's Fury indoor special effects kind of walkthrough show thing, which actually maybe is the 8th Voyage of Sinbad. It's one of those two.
That one I think is the stage show, and that's getting shut down. But I think Poseidon's Fury is it looks really cool from the outside, but on the inside it's not quite as great. So I think you're right. Across the board, people are probably talking about how this one, this area, this Lost Continent area, makes the most sense if something is going to be taken out and sort of revamped. That's the place to do it.
Now, if you guys are going to enter the world of Zelda, Like, what kind of ride do you want to be on?
I want to ride on a horse and eat carrots. That's the only part. That's the only parts of Zelda that I really remember playing. Riding on a horse.
It's going to be the lamest a food place in any theme park where they're just going to serve carrots.
Yes, for fish, because I remember fishing as well. That was a really fun part. Basically, my cousin had a Legends of Zelda game, and he would only allow me to play the boring parts.
That's one of the saddest things, HT. That's terrible.
Wait, so Ben, what would you like to see from a Zelda attraction?
So for me, I've actually never played any Zelda games. I'm getting ready. My wife has
shocking.
a Nintendo Switch, and we're getting ready to buy The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild pretty soon. So I'm looking forward to diving into that as like my first true Zelda experience. I've had some interaction with that character in like the Super Smash Brothers games, but that doesn't really count. So I think I'll be better equipped to answer this question in a few months once we actually get a chance to play that game.
Yeah, I just don't know how you capture Zelda in a ride. Maybe you're going into one of the dungeons. I don't know. We'll probably find out pretty soon whenever they decide to announce this thing. But let's move on to our next story, and that is Avengers 4. Apparently is still a work in progress, even though they have completed principal photography and they're doing reshoots right now. Apparently things are still in flux. HT, what do we know?
So initial production for Avengers 4 ran from August 2017 to January 2018 in Georgia, and we thought that would be that for the beginning, middle, and end of the film, and reshoots, as they usually constitute, would fill in the gaps and add some additional photography. But Mark Ruffalo revealed that they actually haven't shot through the entire film yet. With the Avengers 4 reshoots, which will be taking place sometime this month, and actually are, I think, starting to take place currently, they are going to be completing the film. And Ruffalo said that this is sort of a process that he kind of termed as a living organism of a film, in which they will not work on just individual scenes, but shoot through the entire movie and take feedback as well. So what he said was, quote, some of it is happening while we're there. It's pretty amazing. And we'll shoot some stuff and a few days later come back and reshoot it because we want to take it in another direction. It's a very living organism. Even as we approach it being a locked picture, we're still working on it, end quote. So this could also possibly be due to the fact that Marvel keeps such a tight lid on these films that some cast members don't get the entire script. And I think especially with Mark Ruffalo or cast member like Tom Holland, who are very spoiler prone, it's possible that Mark Ruffalo just simply doesn't know what's going on because he hasn't received the entire script. But they
wouldn't waste his time filming a scene one way and then filming another. Well, I guess they could be filming it in two different ways, so he doesn't know which way the story actually goes.
Mm-hmm, that's
so they're
true.
spending all this money, millions of dollars, just so that he won't spoil the movie.
Yeah, but it's a very interesting sort of approach to filmmaking, which we've never really seen before, and kind of takes into account both studio feedback as well as possibly fan feedback as well.
So do you think with this they're writing out Drax from the future of the Guardians of the Galaxy films?
Ooh, I don't know.
I mean, after Dave Bautista has been very vocal in his displeasure with Disney over James Gunn's firing, Ben, what do you think this could possibly mean for Avengers 4?
Yeah, I was wondering if they might be, I mean, you were joking about Drax, but I'm wondering if they might actually be crafting a new ending for the Guardians in order to sort of set them off in a different way than they would have if the James Gunn situation did not unfold the way it did. We were sort of speculating, like, the stuff with Captain Marvel looks pretty cool that we've seen so far. So she is also a space-centric superhero, and maybe, we knew that that the Guardians of the Galaxy movies were supposed to sort of provide a jumping off point off into the cosmic side of the MCU in the wake of Avengers 4, and maybe they'll be able to use Captain Marvel to sort of fill that gap, that role instead. I don't know. There's still a lot of questions about this.
Yeah, it's and we really know nothing about this movie other than seeing set photos that apparently show us revisiting the Battle of New York and other moments from throughout the Marvel films. So we assume time travel is involved, but that's really the extent of what we know of this movie at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah,
we don't even realistically know who the villain is. I mean, I guess Thanos is the villain, but wouldn't he need more minions of some kind to keep things interesting? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe time itself is the villain. I don't know.
Yeah. Let's move on to Alamo Drafthouse has announced that they are going to launch theaters in Los Angeles and Manhattan in 2019. As someone who has been living in LA for the last 7 years, I think this announcement has come 2 times before this.
Yeah, at least 2 times before this. Yeah,
I've been waiting for this Alamo Drafthouse Theater in LA for a long time. So, Ben, is it actually happening this time?
I think it's actually happening right now because they said that construction is actually underway on the location. So I think in previous instances, when in 2015 and 2018, they were promising that it was going to be coming soon, it was still I guess they were still waiting on some permits or whatever the regulations they had to get approved by the city and stuff like that. But now apparently construction is actually officially underway right now on its location in downtown Los Angeles. So this targeted release date of 2019 might finally stick. We also know that they are opening a location in Manhattan for the first time, so that is also coming in 2019. I think they said that the LA location should be in the second quarter of 2019, and maybe the Manhattan location should be in the back half of the year. So one of the cool things about this is that both locations are going to have new branches of Video Vortex, which is a bar/rental area that we actually talked about when they opened it in Raleigh, North Carolina not too long ago. Video Vortex it's they have all sorts of, I think 40 different craft beers or something like that, and it's a full bar, but they also the majority of it is
local craft beers too.
Oh yeah, that's cool. I didn't realize that. But yeah, the majority of the idea is that they offer free rentals of Blu-rays and DVDs and even VHS tapes, and they rent you a VCR if you don't have one. And like I said, all of that is free. So you just walk in and have an account with them, I guess, and you can just take all this stuff home and check it out and bring it back. And we were talking on a recent episode of the podcast about a lot of the movies that are out there that are not available on streaming or rental platforms or anything like that. And this seems to be a direct answer to a lot of those problems that people have with availability, being able to go into a place like this and check out a movie that is only available on VHS is it's an invaluable resource for people who love film and who have are just frustrated with the fact that a lot of studios have not digitized the stuff yet. So both of those, the LA and Manhattan locations, will both have the Video Vortex in there, and they're going to have board game nights and trivia nights and stuff that are hosted by Birth Movies Death, which is the movie blog that is owned by the Alamo Drafthouse, and they're really trying to make it sound like a true destination for movie lovers in both LA and New York. So I am pretty sure we're going to be covering a lot of stuff from there, because it sounds like they're going to have a lot of cool events and stuff. So stay tuned for more.
I'm still baffled by this video store, which they're renting everything for free. If you have an account, how are they going to make money? They just, I guess, assume that people are going to come there and drink and go see movies?
I think so, yeah. I think and they're going to sell apparel from Mondo and maybe posters and merchandise and stuff like that too. So maybe all of that is a way to just sort of fund this grand experiment of giving people access to all this old stuff that they couldn't get otherwise.
Now, I know people in New York are already enjoying an Alamo Drafthouse in Brooklyn. This is going to be the first one, I think, in Manhattan. But Los Angeles doesn't have an option like that at all, and they're building this in downtown, which if you don't live in Los Angeles or have never visited Los Angeles, you probably don't know this, but downtown Los Angeles is kind of like the deserted wasteland. It's where people go to work, but everything's happening kind of elsewhere in the city. And I guess that's probably unfair, because downtown is kind of becoming a more hip place to for things to happen?
They've been doing a lot of work on it over the past decade or so to try to get it, improve its reputation and have it be sort of a more happening place.
But generally, things close at 7 p.m. downtown, and us people that live in Los Angeles don't really venture out there too often. So, Ben, with an Alamo Drafthouse opening downtown, will that get you to go down there?
That's the thing, is like, it depends on, I think I would go for special events. I wouldn't make it like my quote unquote home theater, just because there are, I can walk to the ArcLight, which is a really great theater, from my apartment in like 15 minutes or something. So I would much prefer the ease and accessibility of doing something like that than having to drive all the way to downtown LA or worry about parking or anything. Although I guess you could take the subway or something there, because it's going to be right next to a subway stop, I think. So that might be the way that I go about, getting there for something like a big event. They're going to have like classic films, and they have like 4K projectors, but they're also going to have 35 millimeter projectors there. So they're going to do a lot of, actually like project things in celluloid, which is becoming more and more rare these days. So maybe for like a special anniversary screening or some event or something like that, I'm guessing I'll go like a handful of times a year, but I won't be going like every week.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the case with me too. But if they start doing like these weekly events, like the Alamo Drafthouse in Austin have like these really fun, Weird Wednesday and all these other like cool events that you get exposed to films that like are not available anywhere. I don't know. Maybe I will find myself down there more than I think. But yeah, I'm thinking it's probably going to be a handful of times a year. But I hope they prove me wrong. Let's move on to our last and final news story today, and that is the new Michael Moore film has premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival. HT, do people like it? Tell us about it.
People are actually somewhat mixed on this film. Some are calling it Moore's most powerful movie yet, but others are saying it's a little bit of a mess. But then again, so is our world. So Michael Moore's new film.
Who would have thought that people would have been mixed on a Michael Moore film?
Yeah, they're basically made to be divisive, and this one might probably be one of his most divisive yet. So Fahrenheit 11/9, which is sort of a play off of his previous film, Fahrenheit 9/11, about the Iraq War, targets President Donald Trump and sort of the reason that we're here today. But it's actually not quite about Donald Trump. A lot of reviews are saying that's kind of where it falls flat with people, because it's a very ambitious and sprawling documentary that not only talks about Trump and his rise, but also Flint, Michigan, the school shootings, and everything that kind of is a symptom of this unrest and political climate going on right now. And it also kind of points to Donald Trump as a symptom himself, though he's also compared frequently to Adolf Hitler in the film. So Salon is the one that called Fahrenheit 11/9 Moore's most powerful movie yet, and that it draws from his legacy of documentaries that are provocative, insightful, revelatory, and witty. But while IndieWire calls it, quote, a messy movie for messy times, but that is a rousing call to arms. Variety also kind of dings the film for having a nose-thumbing start that soon turns into a powerful warning about fascism. And that's the general gist of things. It kind of begins slowly and a little bit scattershot, but then it has a very powerful and very rousing ending.
One of the surprising things about this that I was reading in some of these reviews is, Moore is often criticized as, he's offering a slanted view from a liberal point of view, and there's an agenda there, and blah, 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 and every documentary has some kind of, view of the filmmaker. But this film, I guess, takes on the Democratic Party in some way, and also Obama. He actually, I guess, says in the movie that the old guard of the Democratic Party is a greater roadblock to social progress than Trump is, which is kind of crazy from someone of Michael Moore, where I feel like most people would not expect him to go in that direction. So, yeah, I think it is probably more divisive than your typical Michael Moore film. Are you guys interested in seeing it? Actually, I know you live close to the Capitol. So you are like inundated by all this stuff all the time. Does that make you? Yeah. Are you more sick of it and not wanting to engaged?
Yeah, I already just like seeing Trump on the news for like more than 30 seconds, and seeing a whole movie that partially targets him doesn't sound quite entertaining to me. It does sound important, and Michael Moore does make important films, but I don't know if I would actively seek it out.
Ben, how about you?
I'm right there with you, HT. I feel like my Twitter feed is good enough in terms of like documenting the insanity of the lives that we lead today. So, yeah.
I'm really curious. I love his film Bowling for Columbine. I think his film Sicko, while it's not an amazing film, I think really helped to change healthcare, and then it got reversed. I don't really love his more, let's go against the current establishment documentaries. Those tend to be less interesting to me, but I'm curious to see what he says here, and I'll check it out when it comes out. So it at least has me in the theater. But let's move on to our feature presentation, and that is Ben. Yesterday, you got to go to Walt Disney Studios and spar in a lightsaber battle with Darth Maul himself.
I did, yeah. It's a weird job we have, guys. I'm
so jealous, so jealous. If I wasn't living in fear of the fact that there could be what was that Star Wars kid like memes made out of me battling with Ray Park, I would have been there. But we came to me and Jacob Hall, the managing editor /film, came to the conclusion that Ben would be the person on staff that would most look like he would not be ridiculed in a lightsaber battle. So.
I don't think anyone would ridicule you, Peter.
I don't know. All those people who are slagging The Last Jedi in your mentions might have a field day with that. So I think you may have made the right call there. But nobody really cares about my mentions. So I think I'll probably be fine. But yeah, it was really cool. I got to meet Chewbacca first of all. So that was something. I mean, it wasn't Jonas Suotamo, the guy who actually plays him in the movie. I think it was just like an intern in a Chewbacca costume. But it was still kind of interesting. And then I got to talk to Ray Park yesterday. I put it all in a video, and you can read that, or actually check out the video. And then I added a bunch of details and stuff to it, so you can check that out on /film. We'll link to it in the show notes. But I got to ask him about the secrecy of shooting the cameo part that he had in Solo: A Star Wars Story. And Peter, I think we have a clip of his audio from that, right?
Yes, let's play that right now.
What can you tell me about shooting your scene? What was that like? Was that done remotely? Did they fly you to the set where all the other actors were? How does that
So it was secret. So Ron and I and John, they brought me into Pinewood Studios. I was covered up. I saw some stunt buddies of mine, but I couldn't say hi. We're in this darked out Mercedes. Ron goes, "Wow, it's like we're doing some dodgy gangster deal." And I said to Ron, this is not my idea. But I was so nervous and so excited. I just got off the plane. He was telling me everything about what was happening with Maul. Went back to my hotel and just couldn't believe it. And so for a little while, I had to keep myself secret. You know, I couldn't go and say, "Hey, buddy, what's up? I'm back. I'm back in London." Shaving the head. So I kind of kept myself for a few months just out of the loop. Mm-hmm. From things.
So there you have it. You can listen, or I guess watch the rest of the interview and watch Ben learn how to fight with the lightsaber from Darth Maul himself in this video on /film.com. It's linked in the show notes. This brings us to the end of today's /film Daily. HT, where can we find more of your work online?
You can find me every day at /film.com, and I'm on Twitter at Hoai-Tran Bui.
Ben, where can we find you?
You can find me at /film.com, and you can find me on Twitter at Ben Pears.
And you can find me on all social media at /film. Please don't @reply me on my Star Wars tweets. and you can find more of all the stories we talked about today linked in the show notes and on /film.com. This podcast, /film Daily, is published every weekday. You can find it on iTunes, Google Play, Overcast, Spotify, all the popular podcast apps alongside /film.com. Please send us your feedback, questions, comments, concerns to us at peter@/film.com. And please go rate and read this podcast on iTunes. Tell your friends. Spread the word. We'll see you tomorrow. You know, one of the most surprising things, guys, is Michael Moore. I don't think this is in the movie, but I was reading this interview with him, and Michael Moore. I'm not sure if you guys know this, but like when Hillary was like ahead in the polls, he was the one guy going around being like, "Trump's gonna win, Trump's gonna win." He was the one guy being like, "The end is near." And
he wrote an article saying like 5 reasons why Trump would win, and he got a lot of flack for it.
Yeah, and I don't want to say that Michael Moore is a prophet in any way, but he did get that one right. And in this article, he was recently this interview, he said that he predicted that Trump is going to get a second term, and he said it's going to happen unless we run a beloved figure like Tom Hanks, Oprah, or Michelle Obama.
Oh my god!
What do you guys think?
I'm just gonna hope that he's wrong about that and not pay much attention to it, other than just doing whatever I can do to make sure that it doesn't happen. But Peter, my life is consumed with too much of this already. Why would you put that in my head?
No.
I don't know. You don't want Tom Hanks as the president? I want Tom Hanks as the president.
No, I don't want Tom Hanks.
I don't want my Hollywood heroes to be presidents because I don't want to learn what's bad about them. Like, I like Dwayne Johnson as he is. I don't want him to run for president because I'm going to learn that he's like believes in all these terrible conservative nonsense or something. Just let them be what I like them as now. Which are like
give me somebody with like government experience who understands policy. Like I don't need a flashy person who has been in a bunch of movies. Just give me somebody who knows what they're doing.